Okay, so the footage for 2 and 3 have been missing for about a year. I just found it in my laptop while I was learning to use this GoPro and switching to some different editing software. So thank God I found it. Here it is, guys. Parts 2 and parts 3 of the 0360 project. Thanks. All right, guys, welcome to part 2 of the 2003 6.0. So this is going to be the repair section, and it'll be part 2, possibly part 3. My goal is to keep these videos 20-30 minutes, somewhere in there, so we'll see. But anyway, first thing I did before I almost forgot to record is I took the alternator off here. No big deal. Disconnect your batteries. 10mm on the alternator, plug, pop that off, take the bolts off, obviously take your belt loose, that's your belt tensioner right there. Okay, so everything's out of the way for the alternator, and the reason I took that out is because you can actually roll this turbo up and out this way. I swear every time I start filming is when messages start rolling in. So I got the clamp off the downpipe. Now, if you guys ever wondered, see this hook? That's exactly what it is. It's to help you to hook that on, and then the clamp sits between there and clamps in towards that. And so I got that loosened up and off there. And I think I've shown you before. Oh, here, I can show you on the other clamp how to get these loose, because here, see how there's this section, then this section, and then so it's split into like 3 separate rings. Then there's the bottom, and they all want to stick together. So you got one back here too. This is your up pipe, okay? And I got it loose. It's gonna hang there for a second. But what I do is, to get those sections loose, take a pry bar or a long screwdriver. After you get it unbolted, it'll stay where it's at. And so just for instance, like I'll put that right, so I can get you closer. So that's like the bottom lip. I'll put that right there and hit the end of the pry bar. One little tap with a hammer, it'll pop loose. Same thing with the top. You know, catch it on that edge, pop it loose. This one, once you get those two done, usually you can just kind of twist and that one will come loose. All right. Of course, you got oil feed that has to come off. So 2 bolts on top of there, and then an 8mm down there. And you can actually just twist this out of your way if you'd like. There's nothing but an O-ring down there, so just twist it out of your way. I'll take it out here in a minute. Your oil drain is just O-ringed, so it'll come off as you roll this thing. Unplug your VGT actuator. You should have a bolt here, a bolt right there, shadow. There. So right there, right under that, right there. Second bolt's there. Third one's on the back. I'll have to show you once I get the turbo out of here. So let me, obviously I can't hold the phone and get this big heavy sucker out of here, so let me roll it out of here and I'll show you the third bolt. Alright, it's out. There's bolt number 3. Comes in this way. Oh, right there. A lot of guys don't put them back in. I always do. They're not that bad. I use a 1/4 inch 10mm like this to get all of them out. As long as they're not in there stupid tight, and they shouldn't be. As long as somebody like whoever put that maroon truck together He just decided to impact everything. These were put in here sensible, so they came right out. So let me get this lifted out of the way, and we'll move on. Got a mouse nest in there. I think it's a mouse. We'll move on. Okay, so now that the turbo's out of the way, I'm gonna go ahead and remove the pedestal while I'm here. I already got the bolts out, but there's 1, 2, 10 millimeter on that side. Those were actually completely loose. And then there's the EGR cooler right here. And on this side, you got just enough room to go down in there and get that 10 millimeter. That one was really tight. And then one more right back here. That one was loose too. So 3 out of the 4 were completely loose. And we've had an oil leak down in there. But anyway, take those loose. Your oil oil return, I'm sorry. That can just pop right out. I was looking at the O-ring. We're going to replace those O-rings before we put it back in. Then to get this out, just rock it up to the driver's side and out to the passenger side. There it is. And then down here, I always put my oil, because right here's the cover for your high pressure injection pump. So I always put this back in for the moment. There we go. Just pushes in there. And then I also leave, here's still the turbo feed. It's unbolted, but I still have it stuck in there. Just keep stuff out of there. These valleys get really nasty. So now you can see the problem is on these 03s, this crossover pipe in the back of the intake covers that pump cover. I've heard you can get that cover off. Nah, there's no way. There's no way. I don't see it. But anyhow, how I do it is we're going to take the intake off, get it out of the way. I try to leave the oil filter housing in place, and I'll show you all that. But I'm running out of time tonight. Man's got to cook dinner and eat, so I don't know. We might pull a few more parts off. We'll see. Okay, so we're back out here on it. So our next step, we need to get this wiring harness out of our way. I already started taking some stuff off here. On the 03s, you got a plug there at the throttle valve. This guy is right there. EGR valve. So we're just going to get all those out of our way. Then I need to come over here, take off the glow plug controller, unplug it too. I'll get it here in a second. I'm going to take that out of the way so I can take this 10 mil off this power line, positive cable. And you can see it routes up this way. So we're going to take all of this and lay it over here. So let me do that. Not to mention just getting a few other things. This 8mm's got to come out. The map hose has got to come out. The injector harness needs to be unplugged. Or no, I'm sorry, not the injector harness. That can stay. Mainly just this wiring. No, it can't stay. It has to go. It's sitting on top of the intake. It's been a long day, guys. Got some plugs down here. Your oil pressure switch, oil temp switch, which this one was broken. So we'll have to get a new pigtail so we can fix that up. But main goal is just get this wiring harness laid over here out of the way so we can get the intake off when we get to that point. Alright, I got the coolant draining. It's not somebody taking a pee. Got to drain the coolant down. I'm going to take this shield off, which sits on here. and you just take a screwdriver and gently pry. I didn't do that. Gently pry it off, and it'll snap back place. And then so I got the harness undone over here. Now what we're gonna do is lay it back out of my way. So my goal here is to get the intake off without pulling the shroud, because I hate pulling the shroud, and it can be done. You can do it, and I really don't want to pull the oil filter housing either, but I can. It's no big deal. Need to get this boost tube off while the coolant's draining, and then all the lines on the fuel filter housing need to come loose. And I don't know if this one's got it. Yeah, somebody's done it. See the zip ties? Put zip ties on your lines. That way when you take these loose, they don't slide and go way down there somewhere. They'll hit the zip tie and stop. So we're gonna bust all those loose. So I have all the lines off the fuel filter bowl, fuel filter housing. Got one there, 3 on this side. Don't forget this plug back here. Get it out of your way. What else? We're going to take this coolant line off, and our map sensor hose. Okay, tuck that guy out of the way. I took this 8mm out down here. I didn't need to. Just this guy. It's been a long day, like I said. So you don't have to take that out. Take this one out though, because obviously it's attached to the intake. Then you got 2 15mm bolts you need to take out. This guy right here runs in through here. Give you a zoom out perspective. So you can reach right in there with a socket. Focus. Socket and ratchet go in through this way. Take that guy out. You got one. Here's your intake. Come straight down. You got another one right there. It goes right here. Take that one out. You got a 10mm right here that holds this fuel line right here. Take that out. And then the only thing that still attaches the shroud to the intake is there's this stud, and what that is that's an alignment stud to when you're hanging this big shroud, you can hang it on that stud. So because of that, I was going to leave the oil filter housing in place, but we're going to need to kind of move this forward a little bit, because see, you can pry this forward a little bit, but I don't want to pry it so far it breaks. Plus, might as well this will come with the oil filter housing. Got 2 Torx bolts there, one there, one there, and this whole thing is going to lift up out of my way. And then we're going to come back and let's see if I can weasel this thing back in here. The clamp for the EGR cooler is right there. If I put my finger in, you can't see it. But we need to loosen that, which you have to do from back here. So we're going to loosen that guy up, make sure it's free. And then, well, let me think. Nope. No, you know what? We're going to do it a different way. Just hang with me. We'll explain it. Okay, so the oil filter housing just unbolts. Lifts straight up like that. You're left with standpipe. There's the filter still in there. You're going to lose a little fuel. Those are T45 Torx. Just going to set that guy out of the way. And then you want to take this standpipe out because they're brittle and they'll break. So I obviously got this unbolted already, but you can kind of see where it sits. Those are T25, T27. And so we're gonna set that out of the way. And then there's one more. See this guy in the back with the, how it just barely sits on there. Unbolt him, lift this guy out of the way, and we can, we're gonna store him somewhere safe. But in the meantime, we can put this guy back in. I don't know why I'm referring to this guy, but it feels good tonight. So get him started. And then this, we're gonna do the same thing, which I probably can't do. No, I can't do it one-handed because I obviously got some springs and stuff. We're just gonna loosely put him back in there too, and then I'll cover all this with a rag. Alright, so I got the harness pulled back out of my way, and I go ahead and take the injector harness off because I don't want to accidentally come up with this and break. So I just pop those off, then the whole harness comes out of the way. Here it is right here. So I just take it out of the way, and then the only thing you got left is your ICP and IPR are way back here. You got to reach back there and unplug those two. You'll have a ground right here. There'll be a 10mm nut grounding right there, and then you should be able to, this thing doesn't have to come all the way out, but now you got all kinds of room to get in there. Okay, so I was trying to decide how I wanted to take this intake out for you guys, and it kind of answered itself for me because that clamp is in a weird position. The nut and the thread is like right here, and I can't get a socket in there. So what I'm gonna do is, here's option one, is you can take this nut loose and these two loose, and then you're going to take a pry bar and pry this fitting back. That's your coolant fittings. So some coolant's going to come out of there, and really once you pry this back, you're going to have to replace it. They don't want to seal up, and you don't want to get all this back together just to find out it's leaking. So make sure you replace this. But you can actually just take the intake out, leave this attached to the up pipe, and you can get these bolts out of the cover with a long wrench. That's not how I'm going to do it, but basically I'm going to show you both ways, so at least you know. And other suggestion, if you're watching this, you're probably not real familiar with these engines, so take a picture of your studs so you know where a stud goes and where a bolt goes. So I'm going to go ahead and zip all these out. Take that out. These two fasten the cooler up underneath that, and then I'm going to hopefully get this intake up out of here. Alright, there it is. Intake is out without having to pull the shroud. Everything's still in place. Remember I said at EGR code, flow rate. I think I might have a video on something like this. But anyway, this is still in place, which is good, because that prevents these baffles, bellows, whatever, from, that one usually doesn't bust. It's that guy right there. But this stabilizes it. So now we can zip that clamp off. We'll pull this out of my way, and then we can zip all the bolts around that housing out. Take a good look at the pump. You don't have to do it this way. You could leave it like this, and like I said, you can get a wrench on those things and get that housing out. To me, whether you got the 03 with the crossover or the newer style without that crossover in the back, it's better just to go ahead and pull everything. Yeah, you got some more gaskets to replace and stuff, but you can get a better look at everything. Clean this valley up. We got to clean all that up before we take that cover off. So that's what we're gonna do. Okay, so you can see I got the EGR cooler out of the way. I stuffed some rags down the intake ports. After I vacuumed, I took a shop vac and vacuumed around the intake ports. Then I pulled the gaskets off, vacuumed again while kind of scraping the edges. Where are they? That's a smaller one. Here's a bigger. This is a carbide scraper. Again, doesn't have to be Mac tools. These work really well though for getting the rust and stuff off. Getting gaskets off is their main thing. But if you're real light with them, you can see they clean up. That whole center was just, I mean, thick with sludge. And then I just take and try to clean around the edges of this pump the best I can, pump cover. I pulled the IPR valve out because there's a bolt back there. It's hard to get to. It looks pretty good. A little bit of debris in the screen. So that's out of the way. You can leave the ICP sensor back there, but you can see it's even hard to get the camera on it. Right there. That's your ICP sensor. On 04.5 and to 07, they're right here, like on the maroon truck if you watch the video on that. So they're real hard on the 03s, and I would highly suggest replacing this when you have it out, because you don't want to dig all the way back in here. Oh, that rag is coming out. So yeah, just try to keep anything from going down in the motor. Clean all around the edges of this thing. 8mm bolts. There's 2 10s in the back that basically hold that flange, or that, the heat shield on. I'll show you that when I get it out. And then there's one more under here you have to get with an 8mm wrench. And then you can probably tell I already popped it loose, because I'm going to try. That's the other thing, you can use that oil return tube from the turbo to kind of get it to pop loose. And I'm just going to try to get it out of here without disturbing too much. Okay, let me get this out of the truck and we'll take a look and we'll see if we can figure out where our high pressure oil leak's coming from, or if the pump's bad. Alright, so right off the bat, I don't see anything obvious. This O-ring is not damaged. This pipe's not loose from the snap to connect fitting back here. I used to have a rubber plug I would stick down in there and then pressurize this system again. I can't find it at the moment, but I think I'm going to try that. And it's going to be impossible for me to film and try to see if I can figure this out, but I want to pressurize it one more time and see if I can be for certain where I'm hearing this leak. So let me see what I can figure out. Alright, I'm going to try to get this the best I can. So I got air charging the system, and I got a plug in the top of that pump, and there's some air escaping from that plug, and I'm not moving my hand because that plug wants to come out in a bad way. But you can hear the gurgling. That tells me there's a bad vein in that pump. So it needs a pump. Let me get this discharged before it blows this plug back out. Just so you can see, this is what I was plugging it with. Piece of nylon hose and a flared body bolt. Any bolt would probably work. This one tapers. So literally, I'm not hurting that fitting because it's soft. And I can push it down in there far enough and then use a rag and push my hand over it to keep it in there, to create a seal enough to make sure it's not a fitting here or here. I don't know if you can see how hard I was pushing it, but I didn't want that sucker blowing out. Alright, so to get the pump out, first thing we're going to do is we got 2 8mm here. This will swivel out of the way where that snap to connect is. And then I got 1, 2, 3 on the pump, 10 mils. Pump literally just lifts off. It's not timed, anything like that. Let me get it off there and I'll show you underneath. Okay, so the pump's out. Right there is an O-ring. That could blow out. I've very rarely seen that happen. That one's fine. Let's see, get a look down in the motor. Now this branch tube, so the pressure comes out of the top of that pump. And look at this. I mean, these don't fit perfectly snug, these snap to connects, but look at the play. So I'm gonna say that needs replaced, just for safe measure. But these branch tubes can break too. They go down and they go through to carry, well, it's here on this side because it's apart. So they go down underneath here, then a standpipe goes down and connects to and brings the oil up over to your high pressure rail. So we could have a breakdown there. That's not what it sounds like. The sound you were hearing was oil, or the air bypassing inside the pump and going back to return to oil pan. So, but what we can do, you could take a C-clamp and like 2 pieces of rubber or something and C-clamp that, then pressurize this again, and you shouldn't hear anything at that point. So it's out. I figured I'd show you. So here's the pump. I can tell this is an original pump. One way I can tell is right here. They got a date stamped, 2002. It's an 03 truck. There's where that O-ring sits on the bottom, O-ring on the top. The pump, I can't turn it well, but it doesn't. It turns smooth. It's just a valve can go bad. And I can't show you everything in that pump, but I can show you a good portion here because I saved one from a few. That's been several years ago. This pump blew up, and I've seen this happen. Let me kind of show you. So there you go. This was also out of an 03, obviously. And if you look at there's the date stamping, 02. So this pump exploded in the truck. The gearing was still on it. What happened was, so see that snap ring in the back of this one? The internals in this pump went bad. So the way this pump works, and what I'm talking about with all this, you know, there's little pistons that sit inside of this brass coupler. Pistons, springs, so these are like your valves. And then look at this plate. See how it's angled? We call that a swash plate. So this does this number in there. I'm kind of trying to do it. I can't do anything left-handed. So anyway, that allows, as that thing sits in there and rides like this, open, closed, it's allowing the pistons to open and close. So something in that pump's gone bad internally. This one, let's see if I can remember. I believe this goes in like this actually. And then you can see on the damage here and in that casing right there, this goes in. Not that you guys will ever see this. And then this cover, once all that's pushed in, this cover goes in and a snap ring. And this thing had blown apart internally and blew the snap ring out, and this was wedged in there to where I actually had to pry it out and make sure I didn't drop. That back cover was wedged against this. So yeah, that was a good time. That truck won the battle and the war. But alright guys, pump's out. I'm gonna go in and start a estimate for Tim. I will pressurize this. If I find a leak, I'll video it, but I don't think I'm going to. So we'll give Tim the estimate, and we'll get parts headed this way as long as he's happy with it.